You know what? I thought I'd seen everything in my 40 cycles serving at the Korrath Military Academy. I mean, really, what could possibly surprise a seasoned Vorthak warrior like myself after training thousands of cadets from across 17 different star systems? Well, let me tell you something. I was about as wrong as a plasma rifle with a dead battery. The day those humans arrived at our academy, Commander Thex'val was practically vibrating with smugness. And trust me, when a 7-foot-tall Vorthak with 4 arms starts getting cocky, you know someone's about to have a very, very bad day. He stood there on the observation deck, all polished armor and gleaming ceremonial spikes, and watching the new exchange cadets with the kind of expression you'd give a particularly amusing insect. Look at them, he sneered, his mandibles clicking with barely contained laughter. These soft little mammals think they can train alongside proper warriors? Hey, I give them 3 rotations before they're crying for their home world. Now, I'll admit, the humans didn't look like much. Especially that one they called Maya Stone. Small thing, barely reaching my shoulder plates, with this weird habit of stretching her limbs in impossible directions before every drill. No natural armor, no enhanced reflexes, no bioluminescent threat displays, nothing. Just pale skin, strange hair that changed color in different light, and these unsettling little eyes that seemed to track everything at once. But here's the thing that should have been our first warning sign. While every other species in the academy was busy showing off their natural advantages, the Zelthans with their acid spit, the Groks with their stone-hard carapaces, the Ninth with their telekinetic abilities, the humans just watched and waited, and made these weird little notes on primitive data tablets. Sir, I ventured to Commander Thex'val during one particularly standard combat simulation. Perhaps we should observe their methods more carefully before. Their methods? He practically roared with laughter, causing several nearby cadets to flinch. What methods? They're running around like confused younglings. Look at that stone creature, she's completely ignoring proper formation protocols. And he was right, technically. Maya Stone was doing something that defied every military doctrine we'd ever established. Instead of maintaining defensive positions like any rational being would, she was moving in patterns that made absolutely no tactical sense. Rolling, sliding, somehow contorting her body to fit through spaces that should have been impossible for her bone structure. It looked less like combat training and more like some bizarre interpretive dance. The other human cadets, Jake Rivers, Emma Cross, Sam Blake, they were just as confusing. Rivers kept making these strange vocal sounds that seemed to communicate complex information to his teammates without using proper military channels. Cross was manipulating standard training equipment in ways that definitely weren't in the instruction manuals. And Blake? Blake was somehow turning every single drill into something completely different from what we'd designed. Instructor Zeph Knoll, Commander Thex'val, called down to the drill sergeant, his voice dripping with condescension. Perhaps we should modify the exercises, make them more appropriate for less advanced species. I watched Maya Stone pause mid-movement, her head turning toward our observation deck with an expression I couldn't quite read. For just a moment, those strange human eyes locked onto Commander Thex'val's position, and I swear I felt something shift in the air. Something that made my instincts whisper warnings I was too proud to listen to. "Oh, this is going to be entertaining," Thex'val muttered, already planning his next humiliation. "Let's see how these primitives handle real Vorthak combat protocols." Yeah, well, famous last words, as the humans would say. The disaster was already in motion, and none of us saw it coming. The combat simulation that morning was supposed to be routine. Standard urban warfare scenario, mixed teams of alien and human cadets, objective-based tactical exercise. Simple stuff, really the kind of drill we'd run 1,000 times before with predictable results. What could possibly go wrong? Well, apparently everything. The simulation arena materialized around the cadets, a mock city district with narrow alleys, multi-level buildings, and strategic choke points. Standard Vorthak military doctrine called for systematic advancement, coordinated fire teams, and proper utilization of superior firepower. basic tactics that had won us wars across 3 galactic sectors. Maya Stone took one look at the scenario and immediately did something that made our tactical computers have what I can only describe as electronic seizures. Instead of following her assigned route through the main thoroughfare like every rational being in the history of warfare, she climbed. Not up the designated ladder points or rappelling stations, mind you. She somehow launched herself up the side of a building, using nothing but her bare hands and feet, moving like some kind of demented spider-monkey hybrid. "What in the 7 hells is she doing?" Captain Veltar whispered, his sensory stalks twitching in confusion. I honestly have no idea," I replied, watching as Maya Stone somehow wedged herself into a gap between 2 structures that our architects had never intended as passable terrain. The simulation parameters don't even account for that kind of movement. But it got worse. Oh, so much worse. Jake Rivers was doing something with the standard issue training weapons that definitely wasn't in the manual. He'd somehow modified his plasma rifle to fire in sequence with Emma Cross's weapon, creating overlapping fields of suppression that completely bypassed our defensive algorithms. Sam Blake had turned his equipment pack into some kind of mobile distraction device, projecting holographic duplicates that were fooling sensors designed to detect the most sophisticated ninth illusion technology. The alien cadets were running their drills perfectly, absolutely perfectly, following every protocol, executing every maneuver with textbook precision. And they were getting completely, systematically, utterly destroyed. "This is impossible," Commander Thex'val snarled, his 4 arms gesticulating wildly as he watched the tactical display. "They're violating basic physics. Our systems can't even track their positions properly." That's when Maya Stone did something that broke Commander Thex'val's brain entirely. She dropped from her impossible perch, landed in the middle of a Grok's defensive formation, and somehow convinced 3 heavily armored cadets to shoot each other by simply moving. Not fighting, not using weapons, just moving in ways that made them panic and fire at shadows while she slipped between their lines like smoke. Enough. Thex'val's voice boomed across the training arena as he activated the emergency override. Simulation terminated. The holographic cityscape dissolved, leaving very confused alien cadets standing around looking like they'd just been hit by a stun grenade. Maya Stone landed lightly on her feet in the center of the arena, not even breathing hard, while the human cadets regrouped around her with those weird little grins they seemed to share. Commander Thex'val stormed down from the observation deck, all 4 arms swinging, his ceremonial armor clanking with each thunderous step. Every cadet in the arena, alien and human alike, snapped to attention as he approached Maya Stone with the kind of fury that typically preceded court-martial proceedings. "What?" he said, his voice dropping to that dangerous whisper that made even veteran instructors nervous. "Do you think you're doing, Cadet?" Maya Stone looked up at him with those unsettling human eyes and said, in the most casual tone imaginable, "Following the mission parameters, sir. Neutralize hostile forces, secure the objective, minimize casualties to friendly units." "You were supposed to follow established tactical protocols." "Sir, with respect, the mission brief didn't specify which protocols to use." That's when Commander Thex'val made the mistake that changed everything. His primary right arm swung out faster than most beings could track, an open-handed strike aimed at Maya Stone's face that should have sent her sprawling across the arena floor. It was a casual gesture of dominance, the kind of disciplinary action that was perfectly normal in Vorthak military culture. Except Maya Stone wasn't Vorthak. The slap never landed. One moment Commander Thex'val was mid-swing, and the next moment he was staring at his own hand, trapped in Maya Stone's grip just inches from her cheek. She had moved somehow impossibly fast enough to catch a Vorthak combat strike bare-handed. The entire arena went dead silent. Maya Stone looked up at Commander Thex'val, still holding his hand in that unbreakable grip, and said in the same casual tone, "Sir, I don't think that's appropriate training protocol." That's when we all realized we'd made a very, very serious mistake about humans. You want to know what the most terrifying sound in the universe is? It's not the roar of a Grok's war beast, or the psychic shriek of an enraged Nith, or even the plasma scream of a dying star. No, it's the absolute pin-drop silence that followed Maya Stone catching Commander Thex'val's hand like it was a slow-moving training dummy. For about 3 heartbeats, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Nobody even processed what they'd just witnessed. A soft little human had just stopped a full-force Vorthak combat strike with her bare hand like she was catching a tossed fruit. Then Maya Stone did something that made my blood freeze in my veins. She smiled. Not a friendly smile, mind you. Not the kind of pleasant expression humans usually wore when they were trying to be diplomatic. This was something else entirely, something that made every survival instinct I'd developed over 4 decades of military service start screaming danger alerts. "You know, Commander," she said, her voice still conversational, still casual, while her grip tightened around Thex'val's trapped hand, "where I come from, hitting someone during a training exercise is considered pretty poor form." That's when Commander Thex'val made his second mistake of the day. He tried to pull his hand free. I've seen Vorthak warriors tear through solid steel plating with their bare hands. I've watched them lift combat vehicles over their heads and throw them like toys. But Commander Thex'val, with all his enhanced strength and biomechanical augmentations, couldn't budge his hand from Maya Stone's grip by so much as a millimeter. "Release me immediately, Cadet," he bellowed, his other 3 arms reaching for Maya Stone with the kind of murderous intent that would have sent any rational being scrambling for cover. Maya Stone twisted. I still don't understand the physics of what happened next. One moment Commander Thex'val was towering over her, 4 arms swinging in perfect coordination, and ready to demonstrate exactly why Vorthak were considered the premier warrior species in this sector. The next moment he was off balance, stumbling, and somehow Maya Stone had maneuvered herself behind him with his arm locked in some kind of joint manipulation that made him freeze in place. She called out, never taking her eyes off the commander, "You might want to step back. This could get messy." That's when I realized the other humans had moved too. Jake Rivers was no longer standing casually by the equipment racks. He'd somehow positioned himself between the arena exit and the 3 alien instructors who'd been moving to assist Commander Thex'val. Emma Cross had acquired from where I still have no idea what looked like standard maintenance tools, but she was holding them in ways that suggested they were about to become considerably less maintenance-oriented. Sam Blake was doing something with the arena's training equipment that was making our security systems throw error messages. "Cadets," Captain Veltar called out nervously, "please step away from Commander Thex'val immediately. This is a direct order." Emma Cross looked at him with that same unsettling smile Maya Stone had worn. "Sorry, Captain. I don't think we heard that order clearly. Could you repeat it?" Now here's the thing about military protocols. They work great when everyone involved follows the same basic rules of engagement. When everyone understands the hierarchy, respects the chain of command, and operates within predictable parameters. What they don't account for is a species that apparently views authority as more of a helpful suggestion than an absolute mandate. Commander Thex'val, realizing that brute force wasn't working, decided to try leveraging his superior technology. He activated his helmet's emergency systems, reinforced battle armor, enhanced reflexes, tactical analysis computer, the works. Military-grade equipment that cost more than most planets' annual defense budgets. Maya Stone reached up and, with her free hand, somehow found the helmet's primary power coupling. The sound of shattering composite materials echoed through the arena as Commander Thex'val's million-credit battle helmet cracked like an eggshell. Sparks flew, display screens went dark, and the massive piece of technology that was supposed to make him virtually invincible in combat turned into very expensive scrap metal. "Oops," Maya Stone said mildly. "I hope that wasn't important." That's when the panic really started. General Korrath, who'd been observing from the upper levels, activated the Academy's emergency protocols. Blast doors should have sealed, security teams should have deployed, and the entire facility should have gone into lockdown mode. Instead, the lights flickered, several control panels started smoking, and the Academy's main computer began announcing in a cheerful voice that all systems were functioning normally, while clearly, obviously, catastrophically malfunctioning. Sam, Jake Rivers called out, "What did you do to the security grid?" "Nothing much," Sam Blake replied, still doing something incomprehensible with what had been a standard diagnostic tablet. "Just convinced it that everything happening right now is part of a scheduled maintenance routine." Meanwhile, Maya Stone had somehow maneuvered Commander Thex'val into a position where his head was trapped in what I can only describe as a very gentle, very secure, very humiliating grip. She wasn't hurting him, that was the most terrifying part. She was just holding him there, demonstrating with casual ease that she could do whatever she wanted to a fully armored Vorthak commander, and there wasn't a single thing he could do about it. "So," she said conversationally, as if she wasn't currently controlling the head of the Academy's most senior military officer, "shall we discuss proper training protocols? Because I have some thoughts about your teaching methods." The alien cadets who'd been watching this whole display started backing away slowly. The instructors were frantically trying to contact security teams that somehow kept getting lost on their way to the arena. And I realized, with growing horror, that we weren't watching a disciplinary incident. We were watching a demonstration. The humans weren't just better at combat than we'd expected. They were better at everything. Here's the moment when 40 years of military experience taught me the most important lesson of my career. When you think you understand warfare, the universe sends humans to educate you about how little you actually know. General Korrath finally arrived in the arena with a full security detail, 12 of our finest Vorthak warriors, armed with the latest plasma weaponry, wearing full combat armor, and trained to handle everything from Grok's berserkers to ninth mind attacks. They took one look at the situation and immediately began deploying in standard suppression formation. Maya Stone glanced over at them while still maintaining her casual grip on Commander Thex'val's head. "Oh good," she said brightly, "more learning opportunities. That should have been our second warning." The first warning had been everything else that happened in the last 10 minutes. "Human cadets," General Korrath announced in his most authoritative voice, "you will release Commander Thex'val immediately and submit to disciplinary processing. A failure to comply will result in the use of authorized force." Jake Rivers looked at Emma Cross. Emma Cross looked at Sam Blake. Sam Blake looked at Maya Stone. And then all four humans started making those weird vocal sounds again, not quite laughter, not quite communication, but something that made our universal translators throw error messages. "Jake," Maya Stone said conversationally, "remember that tactical exercise from last week? The one about asymmetric engagement parameters?" "Oh, you mean the one where we discussed how advanced technology becomes a liability when it's operated by people who can't think outside their programming? That's the one." General Korrath made a gesture, and 6 of his security team raised their plasma rifles, military-grade weapons capable of cutting through reinforced starship hulls. The humans should have surrendered immediately, or at least shown some basic survival instincts. Instead, Sam Blake held up his modified diagnostic tablet and said, "Hey, General? You might want to check your weapon status indicators." 6 plasma rifles immediately began displaying critical malfunction warnings. "What? How did you?" General Korrath frantically checked his own weapon systems, only to discover that somehow, impossibly, the humans had managed to remotely access and reprogram their equipment. "This is impossible. These are closed-circuit military systems." "Well," Emma Cross said helpfully, "they were closed-circuit. But you know how it is with security protocols, they're only as good as the people who design them. And honestly, your people don't seem to think very creatively about potential failure modes." That's when I realized what we were really witnessing. This wasn't just combat superiority. This was something far more terrifying: intellectual dominance. The humans weren't just better fighters, they were better at thinking about fighting. Commander Thex'val, still trapped in Maya Stone's grip, tried one more desperate gambit. He activated his personal defense field, an energy barrier that should have been impossible for organic tissue to penetrate. Maya Stone studied the shimming air around her hand for about 2 seconds, then shifted her grip slightly. The defense field collapsed. "Interesting design," she commented. "But it's optimized for projectile impacts and energy weapons." doesn't really account for sustained pressure applied at specific harmonic frequencies. She demonstrated by tapping the side of Thex'val's helmet with one finger, producing a resonant hum that made his remaining armor plating vibrate ominously. Meanwhile, the other humans had begun what I can only describe as a systematic deconstruction of everything we thought we knew about military engagement. Jake Rivers approached the first security team member, a veteran Grox warrior whose carapace could deflect small arms fire, and somehow convinced him to hand over his weapon by simply talking to him. Not threatening, not fighting, just talking. In Grox battle cant, which he'd apparently learned during his 3-day orientation period. Emma Cross had acquired a maintenance multi-tool and was using it to disassemble a plasma rifle faster than our trained technicians could service them. She wasn't breaking anything, mind you. She was improving it, making modifications that our engineers would spend months analyzing and probably years trying to understand. Sam Blake was having what appeared to be a friendly conversation with our tactical computer system, and the computer was responding to vocal commands in a language it wasn't programmed to understand, while displaying tactical data that it definitely shouldn't have been sharing with unauthorized personnel. You see, Maya Stone explained to Commander Thex'val, as if she were conducting a perfectly normal training lecture while holding the head of a superior officer. Your entire military doctrine is based on the assumption that superior technology and raw physical capability determine combat outcomes. It's not wrong, exactly, but it's incomplete. She gestured toward her teammates with her free hand. Jake over there? He's not stronger than your Grox warrior. But he understood something about Grox psychology that your training manuals apparently don't cover. Emma's not more durable than your equipment. But she thinks about mechanical systems differently than your engineers do. Sam's not more powerful than your computers, but he approaches information processing from angles your programmers never considered. General Korrath, watching his security team being systematically neutralized by 4 humans using nothing but conversation and creative thinking, finally asked the question that had been haunting all of us, "What are you?" Maya Stone considered this for a moment. "We're humans," she said simply. "We're adaptable. We don't like being told there's only one way to do things. And we get really creative when someone tries to intimidate us." She released Commander Thex'val, who stumbled backward and immediately began checking his armor for damage. "Also," she added cheerfully, "we don't actually like authority figures who think hitting students is an acceptable teaching method." By this point, 12 of our best warriors had been rendered completely ineffective without a single act of violence. Their weapons weren't functioning. Their armor had been somehow convinced that it needed immediate maintenance, and half of them were engaged in animated discussions with humans about topics ranging from tactical philosophy to equipment design optimization. General Korrath looked around the arena at his neutralized security team, at his humiliated commanders, at the humans who were casually chatting among themselves, as if they hadn't just revolutionized everything we thought we knew about warfare, and asked the only sensible question left. "What do you want?" Maya Stone smiled that terrifying smile again. "Better training protocols," she said. "And maybe some respect for the learning process." That's when we realized we weren't their instructors. They were ours. 3 months later, I'm still trying to figure out exactly when everything changed at the Korrath Military Academy. Was it the moment Maya Stone caught Commander Thex'val's hand? Was it when she casually dismantled a 1,000,000-credit helmet with her bare fingers? Or was it when General Korrath, after watching 4 humans systematically neutralize his entire security detail using nothing but creative thinking and polite conversation, officially requested that they design our new combat training curriculum? Actually, I think it was probably when Commander Thex'val, proud, arrogant, 4-armed Commander Thex'val, walked into General Korrath's office the next morning and formally requested reassignment to basic tactical training, under human supervision. "I need to learn how they think," he explained, his voice carrying none of the swagger that had defined his entire career. "Everything I thought I knew about combat, about leadership, about warfare itself, it's all wrong. Or at least, it's incomplete." The Academy's response was swift and, honestly, kind of embarrassing. Within a week, Maya Stone had been promoted from exchange cadet to senior combat instructor. Jake Rivers was leading seminars on psychological warfare that had our veteran officers taking notes like first-year students. Emma Cross was redesigning our equipment maintenance protocols, and Sam Blake had somehow convinced our central computer system to optimize itself using algorithms that our best programmers still don't understand. The other alien species took notice quickly. Word spreads fast in military circles, especially when it involves a complete tactical revolution happening at the most prestigious combat academy in 3 sectors. Within a month, we had requests from 17 different star systems asking if they could send their officers for human-style training. Maya Stone, to her credit, handled her sudden legendary status with the same casual competence she'd shown while holding Commander Thex'val's head in her grip. She established new protocols that emphasized adaptability over rigid doctrine, creative problem-solving over brute force, and most importantly respect for all participants in the learning process. The thing is, she explained to a packed auditorium of senior military officers during one of her tactical seminars, every species brings something valuable to combat situations. Groks have incredible durability, Nith have telepathic advantages, Vortak have superior strength and coordination. But if everyone's trying to fight the same way, using the same tactics, following the same predictable patterns, then you're not really utilizing those advantages effectively. She gestured to the mixed species teams that were now standard in all academy exercises. Diversity isn't just politically correct, it's tactically superior. Different perspectives, different approaches, different solutions to the same problems. Commander Thex'val, sitting in the front row with the kind of attention he'd never shown to any instructor before, raised one of his 4 hands. But how do we train for unpredictability? How do we prepare for enemies who don't follow established doctrine? Maya Stone smiled, not the terrifying smile from that first day, but something warmer, more encouraging. You stop assuming that your way is the only way. You start thinking like humans. The Academy's graduation statistics tell the whole story. Combat effectiveness up 400%. Innovation in tactical thinking increased by margins our statisticians are still calculating. Interspecies cooperation at levels we'd never achieved before. And casualty rates in actual combat situations dropped to nearly 0. But here's what really keeps me awake at night. This was just 4 humans. 4 exchange students who were supposed to be learning from us. There are billions more where they came from. Maya Stone has become something of a legend throughout the galactic military community. Stories about the human who broke Commander Thex'val get more elaborate with each telling. But those of us who were there, who witnessed what really happened, we know the truth. She didn't break him, she taught him, and that's infinitely more terrifying. Because if humans can do that to us, turn our greatest warriors into eager students with nothing more than superior thinking and a creative problem-solving, then maybe we need to reconsider exactly who the advanced species really are in this galaxy. The humans are coming, and thank the stars they seem to like us. Mostly.